And man, that's the problem with taking Fizz, is if you have Fizz in your mid lane and you don't have a full wave clear top laner, it's very difficult to actually push into turrets.
Yeah, we saw that as a major problem, in fact, because they couldn't push for all that time. And in this game, if they get to the same situation, but don't take that because of an amazing like rotational play with like strategery, they could hit that same problem if they run like another assassin, because that's, you know, Take Fun's champion pool.
Exactly, and that's a problem that Take Fun really has, is his champion pool can sometimes hinder the rest of his team. But that last fight, Zayu with an amazing kick into the fight, but then what we didn't really talk about too much was finally Na getting into fights, because that was an amazing ultimate from Na. I mean, the work was done by Zayu, kicks dominant all the way through, the displacement was done. 5 players got hit by that Na ultimate, and that's enough to win a team fight right there.
Yeah, and you know, when you hit that big ultimate, then you hit the wallop on top of that, and everyone dies. And we saw the whole team just disappear in the blink of an eye. So yeah, it's another case study of us seeing a Na and seeing, no matter really where you are in the game, how long ever it takes you, you get to a point where Na just lands a half-decent to a good ult, teamfight won, game won.
Yeah, and you have to feel like now, reason they're going to be on the red side, I think they're going to ban Na. I don't think Kubon's going to want to play against it, because he was just like, oh, we just got a game where I get a free lane. Great. There's nothing I can play into Na. So, yeah, they can't really counter me with Na that much.
Yep.
Not going to be a factor this time.
Yeah.
I really don't think so.
You know, it was a little interesting to see where those bans went in the first game.
Yeah.
Because Orianna was banned out, something that wasn't banned out at all from the other teams who've gone up against Reason Gaming. Zed wasn't banned out, which was banned out against all those teams, didn't end up taking the pick. So, well, they can obviously maybe substitute out one of those mid lane picks from Take Fun, and then they need to substitute Na into that, of course.
Yeah, well, they have to. And then, obviously, they're going to likely ban Lee Sin on red side, even though it's Zayu's champion. We've seen him comfortable on other champions as well, but I'm wondering what DD are going to ban, because they're probably going to ban the LeBlanc. Oh, actually, a big factor that we didn't think about that springs into mind. If Reason looked to ban the standard red side of Na, Zed, and Lee, Fiora might be available. That's one ban they supposedly have to do.
Indeed, and you know, we haven't seen DD actually bring out the top lane Fiora in competitive play, but every team to date has always banned out Fiora. It's like, okay, we have to take this away from this guy. It's that random factor. But then that last random factor of we're going to lose anyway if we don't ban Na, then, you know. So.
Yeah, well, that's a very interesting thing. The Warrior Lady doesn't feel, well, that'll be, does Warrior Lady feel Fiora is better than Na? Do they let Na through and pick Na, or do they let Fiora through? That's a very interesting question here as we head towards Champion Select. Shouldn't be too long.
No, not at all. So we have been waffling on a little bit, but we are just still waiting for the players themselves to organize themselves and get into their second game. And they probably just need to, you know, get their thoughts together, because that was a crazy first game.
It was indeed. And if we get another game like that, if we get another series like that, as later on today, we, of course, are going to be bringing you more action here from the expansion tournament. But the first round games didn't really disappoint. Some of them were very great series.
Yeah.
This time round, we're one game in. This is looking to be a great series as well. But I think we're about ready.
Yeah, we've hit the ground running, and so have the teams as we head now into Champion Select. Let's see if a couple of our predictions maybe ring true. So, very fast off the mark. LeBlanc comes out as the first ban from Different Dimensions. Jace as well. And, ooh, yeah. So we will have the first same couple bans coming in here. Of course, Reason Gaming will be taking that one away here.
And that's pretty interesting, because Jace isn't a typical red side ban. Jace is a blue side ban because you don't want to play against somebody who's very strong poke composition. But the Thresh was banned in the last game. I kind of want to take a moment to talk about that, how Libic has been playing a lot of Thresh. And honestly, that's probably his strongest champion right now. So not a lot of support bans that we normally would see, but that is why Thresh has been banned away.
Yeah, so we saw that as the last ban up. Now will be the second ban now from Different Dimensions. There's the Fiora.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so where does the last ban go? You have to feel it's going to be Na, but do they go somewhere else?
So this gives Mage Bane access to either Zed or Anon Psycho access to Lee Sin if they ban out Nah here. So there is a lot going on in this game right now.
So last ban now is all we have to wait for DD to round out their banning phase. Will be Corki.
Ooh.
Okay, so
Okay.
we had this banned out first time around. Will be the same as we head into the second champion select. No real surprise. Hang on. They have dominant.
Yeah, they have dominant, but what this signals to me is they're basically pressuring Reason now. So if they ban out Nah here, DD picks something like a Maokai for their first pick. If they don't pick Nah, DD aren't rushing to get Corki anymore.
Yeah. That's a pretty smart long-term play now as we head into the actual pick. Syndra comes in against Mage Bane.
And what does that leave open?
Nah once again. So, can it be the third time when Nah leads a team to victory? It's the question here, Stress. And can Warrior Lady use that pick to the same proficiency as the first two players before him?
And that's a very confident play by Kubon. Because Kubon's doing the bans, so he gets to decide whether he wants to play against Nah or not. And obviously, Mage Bane Syndra just being a stronger factor than Warrior Lady's Nah. That's if I'm Warrior Lady, I'm thinking, okay, well, you're scared of my Fiora, but not my Nah. Why is that?
Well, maybe it's because they've researched them and they've maybe just dodged that one, didn't quite notice it. Or they went and said, yeah, we actually need to ban out the Syndra more than we do the top lane. But the first two picks from Reason Gaming, Lucian here, Lee Sin as well for Zeu. Again, he gets his star champion.
Yeah, and, you know, at this point, Different Dimension could lock a Jarvan, because Lee is now over on Reason's side. Jarvan synergizes so well with Nah. And Reason, they're going to pick up, obviously, that Celiva's AD carry of Lucian. And Reason Gaming right now, I wonder what they've let themselves in for here. They have to have something special to go up against the potential Nah-Jarvan combination.
They're actually taking their time with this one. Maybe they're thinking about it. Maybe they want to come up with something else.
And at this point, Orianna was banned away in the last game from Take Fun, but if DD were to look to pick that alongside the Jarvan here, Nah Jarvan Orianna is incredibly strong. That surely not. Surely that's not getting
towards
in.
their bot lane, and is going to be none other than Nami and Vayne. Okay,
No,
so
okay.
Vayne comes out for dominant. We know he's this big player, but crazy second couple picks.
This is insane right now because Vayne is not known for a strong laning phase, and they've picked Vayne into Lucian, who is incredibly known for his strong laning phase. That's not the best setup already. Pair that potentially with Reason Gaming now having a lot of single target pick potential. That's a bold statement out of Dominant.
So the Reason Gaming now responds with an Irelia, probably to jump on, said Vayne, and now looking towards Janna as well for that bottom lane, so all out dominance. This is a statement by DD. It's like saying, we have Nah, doesn't really matter what we do from here, because we just pick what we're all comfortable with, but Vayne competitive play. Well, let's see if he fancies himself the next Reckless, but that Janna will be locked in here by Reason Gaming.
Is this something that DD have been hanging on to for when they're one game away from being out? Because all of the research went in that when Corki and Lucian weren't available, Ezreal and Graves were Dominant's next picked. And Vayne is as far different from a mid-lane champion as you can possibly get. Everything relies on auto-attack, so that is an insane potential setup here. And Reason Gaming, again, the story of their game is mobility. Everything about their team is just completely mobile. Let's make sure that we can engage when we want to. Disengage, obviously, with the Janna, but these are the two picks that I would be expecting Different Dimension to lock in.
Well, this would be the craziest wombo combo the world has ever seen. And it would also be a pretty damn good frontline for Vayne as well.
Yeah.
I guess they didn't feel any pressure to lock in the John before with the Lee Sin, but here it is. If you've ever seen a team composition on paper and be like, I think this one will win, this is the one from DD.
That's crazy, this composition. So you already alluded to it being a strong frontline, but the other thing that is very good for keeping a champion like Vayne alive is full-on engaging on your enemy team so that they really just don't have anything left to deal with. So what this will do is Jarvan, Orianna, Nah go in, do a lot of damage, a lot of disruption, Vayne cleans up.
Yeah, and the very last pick was Ari now coming in from Reason Gaming. So they will be using this to try and counteract DD's comp.
Yeah, but that's a tricky one because you've got to land a charm onto a Vayne who's going to be stealthed up later and later into the game. So, again, Reason are picking a very similar composition, though. It pretty much does a lot of the same things. Obviously, not there for that mass crowd control, but single target from Ahri, single target Aurelia, same from Lee Sin.
Yeah, it's find ourselves a pick, try and just go from there. But you're absolutely right. When we get into these team fight stress, you know, you look at DD and it's like, okay, have to get past the Jarvan, the Cataclysm, the Gnar who's going to be in the Cataclysm, the Orianna who's going to be balling us with the Shockwave as well. And then we have to just go with a shot in the dark and hope we hit Vayne, who is currently stealthed. So it's difficult to get through. We're hyping up the composition a lot, though. We're being like, on paper, it looks incredible, but it's all about the execution as we get into this game.
It is, but on paper, it does look incredible. The Vayne is perhaps the only... I don't want to say questionable, because I feel confident with Dominant's performances that he wouldn't pick it unless he feels very strongly about playing it. So I'm just anxious to see how this Vayne is going to go, because we do not see Vayne in competitive play. Not even Doublelift plays Vayne in competitive play.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you feel as strongly about these compositions as we do, head over to Twitter at LOL Esports, use the hashtag LCS expansion, and get your thoughts over to us as well. Because just looking at the composition, we said it time and time again, we've hopped on about it for the last 3 minutes. We think it's going to be incredible. Get your thoughts over to us.
Yeah, Reason have got their work cut out for them just on paper at this point in the game. But speaking of the game, ever so shortly, we will be jumping into it.
Yeah, mere seconds away from finding if this is the 2-0 sweep or this is the beginnings of a comeback for different dimensions as they are swapping up. Reason Gaming now in the upper right will be now on the red colors, moving into their jungle. In fact, everyone is fanning out. Different dimensions now on the opposite side themselves, moving into this game, hoping that they can make this the even series that they need.
So, bottom lanes. Vayne and Nami into Janna and Lucian. That's so much damage that Janna and Lucian are going to be able to put down in the beginning of the game that I struggle to see how Dominant is going to be able to survive through it. Obviously, Nami will give him the sustain. I just feel like they have to be a little cautious in the early levels and watch out for that shielded Lucian damage.
Yeah, they'll have to be careful in this early game. As much as we hyped up the team fights, the late game, the idea on paper, when you look at the late matchups, you look at the bot lane, it's like, actually, they need to get to a certain point before they're able to use it. So, absolutely right on that point. Now looking towards down the river, of course, see the warding line that will just give the early information, of course, for these teams and the laners.
Top lane is another question, but we've just perhaps caught different dimension with their game plan, which is to swap Vayne out of that matchup up into the top lane. That would help her through the laning phase, but how will that hinder Warrior Lady's Gnar? Of course, Gnar is a manless champion, so can do fairly well throwing out that boomerang time and time again to get the last hits early on in the game, but did any wards catch them? Not yet, but Aurelia will spot them out from being in that bush. That's a pretty precarious position for Aurelia to be in, actually.
Yeah, and you know what? We have this lane swap up here. So they are, of course, fearing that lane matchup against Lucian and Nami, and they actually go for this lane swap up. So it will be Kuban up in the top lane. He's now seen that Vayne. So, yeah, what are they going to do from here? That's the question for these two teams. And with this lane swap up, then different dimensions are ahead of the game. They planned it out from laning phase, and we have Warrior Lady jungling with Anon Psycho before he goes into this bottom lane, knowing that Celev will be freezing the lane.
However, take a look at the invade on the red buff already here from Zayu. That's going to catch out Jarvan. He's going to be expecting his red buff to be there.
He throws down the flag. He was already ahead of the game, thinking that they would be there with no Janna in the bottom lane. Goes to flag and drag, disrupts the teleport back to base. But that double buff Zayu is doing so much damage. Will not be able to take him out, but will probably think about his own trip back to base in a minute. Libic now heads into the bottom lane as Celev just 1v1s Warrior Lady back to his turret.
Reason perhaps getting the best of this so far. The only real thing that DD are getting from this is easier farm on Vayne up in that top lane. So, 13 CS to 8 is a decent position, but take a look at the damage Warrior Lady's taking.
Quite a lot. And Warrior Lady, yes, he's on Gnar, but he would like to have somewhat of a decent laning phase. But is this what they're giving away for Dominant to have his perfect laning phase? Because at the moment, Kubon is in an equally difficult situation in the top lane.
I mean, at this point, what it says to me is DD know their composition is always going to have the effect that it's going to when they use their ultimates together. They can sacrifice a little bit of the laning phase here for Warrior Lady, make sure that they just get into a roaming phase and group up.
So right now, everyone has, or at least a couple people have gone back to base, but not picked up anything significant. But we take a look at the CS advantage in the lane that's not been messed up, middle lane, and there is an advantage to take fun, regardless of the matchup. Now, we did see Zayu spotting out Anon Psycho in his own jungle, but here comes the flying drag. Warrior Lady has roamed from the bottom lane back from base, and he is dropping low, and actually Zayu might be a pick up a kill in this 1 versus 2. He gets the first blood. Can Warrior Lady get at least reclaim a kill? He flashes forwards. He's going deep for this one to make sure he gets this one, but it's going to be the double kill on such low health. Level 2 versus level 4. It didn't matter how low Zayu was.
Zayu comes up, trumps there, and even though Anon Psycho and Warrior Lady hid their slows put down perfectly, Lee Sin right now with not only the level advantage, but that red buff just made trading so much easier for Zayu, and they kind of went in splintered, and from there, Zayu's just going to take control of that situation. What was used there? Flash was used by both Anon Psycho and Warrior Lady in exchange for Zayu's, but Zayu comes out 2-0.
That was possibly as bad as it could have gone in the early game for different dimensions. So whether they can even hit the phase where they can use their comp, that's another question. But here comes Mage Bane. He is caught out in the middle lane, but that's not a tanky Jarvan. That's a Janna coming in. Misses the Howling Gale. Yes, he pushes him back to turret, but here's the auto attack and here's the Ignite. Command Protect should be enough, and the Hell Potion to keep Mage Bane alive.
Was a fair amount used, though, in that middle lane. Ignite not going to be available. Both used. Bubble in the top.
Oh, Zayu, though, is coming in from around the side, and Mage Bane has not noticed. Here comes the Q, here comes the follow-up, and Mage Bane, that's why you don't start shopping before you've recalled.
Action around the map again, but a nice condemn into the wall after a bubble in top lane is just putting Different Dimension in a great spot. 1-0 on Vayne, and for the last 5 or so minutes, it's been very quiet up in that top lane, and that is exactly what Dominant is going to want.
As Zayu picks up another kill onto Warrior Lady. 4-1 currently, but Anon Psycho looking to do the same in the top lane versus Kubon is tanking up the turret, that being from the support. He actually gets executed, a 1-on-1, but does get the 2 assists onto the team of DD.
So 1 for 1 with the execute as well. That was incredibly messy by Different Dimension. They got the bubble early on, but take a look at what is getting taken down the other side of the map. Reason already on the Dragon.
So Reason Gaming, despite that kill on the top lane, they did manage to get another kill in the middle lane, and then yet another kill onto Warrior Lady, who at this point, by the way, Stress is still level 2. The 6 minutes 30 into this game, they move onto the Dragon and pick this up as well. Reason Gaming are taking control of this game.
That is disastrous for Warrior Lady, and this all stems from Different Dimensions' decision to lane swap. And you have to wonder, was that the right choice here? Because, yes, they want to get Dominant through the game, through the laning phase. He's 59 CS with 2 kills up here, so he's in a comfortable position. But was it at too much of a cost for Warrior Lady? He's only level 3. And that is going to mean that it's pushing back the time at which DD can group later and later into this game. So a very integral fight in the next couple of minutes could go the way of Reason just because Warrior Lady isn't level 6 with his ultimate.
And yes, Dominant is ahead, but he's ahead by 10 CS over his counterpart and 2 kills. That's putting all your eggs in one basket, and is he far enough ahead to counteract a 4-0 Lee Sin, who's having the best early game of his life with a Sightstone and the mobility boots?
But you know how Lee Sin scales up? Lee Sin's utility or use in the game gets lower and lower as everybody else gets stronger, because your utility basically gets put onto the fact that you can kick somebody from a fight, which Vayne is very difficult to do, especially with this front line from Different Dimension. The good thing for Dominant is, though, he's way ahead in the gold than his opposing AD carry right now, but overall, he hasn't even been back to the buy yet. He's currently sat on 2,600 gold. So when he backs, that's going to be almost the entire Blade of the Ruined King when he picks it up. Yeah, there you go.
That is pretty significant.
Everything but the recipe cost.
Yeah, this is a good start for Vayne, but again, is it enough? That is the golden question of the game, and we won't really find the answer to that until we get to the roaming phase. But look who's waiting on the wings again. Libic is sitting here currently for Take Fun. Zayu from the other corner. And Magebane is stuck in the middle lane with Take Fun. We'll go back to his turret. So gank doesn't pay off, but can he get something else away from this one with their current positioning?
Take Fun's out of mana.
No. Take Fun is out of mana, but he does have blue buff, so give him a couple seconds and he'll be back to a healthy mana state.
Very true. He's taking a lot of damage, Wild Panda.
That's true. Now he's getting caught out with Zayu. He did again try to take away this red buff. He's too hungry for these red buffs, and Anon Psycho will pick up this kill. In fact, that actually goes to Nami with the ebb and flow. Mid lane, though, Libic is dropping low, only level 4. Magebane, though, gets tagged by the charm. Take Fun takes him out, but Anon Psycho comes in with the Cataclysm, finally takes him out of the Dragon Strike, but it took too long. Celevo was able to come in from the bottom lane and pick up a kill in return.
Very messy trading kills for kills. Zayu being way deeper into the jungle than he should have been at that point, and as you said, he just wants red buff far too much, and you have to think different dimension at this point are getting a couple of kills on the board here. Dominant in the top lane.
Dominant is getting completely destroyed by Kubon going on in that one-on-one. Barely escapes with his life. Has to use the heal, doesn't use the flash, but used the Bilge Water to get away.
Took a turret shot. That was the biggest problem up in that top lane, and Dominant can't really get that close. You are only in the early game still, Vayne. You're not the hyper carry yet that everybody expects you to become. Very much so on the way there, though.
Indeed, and Kubon is looking to stomp out his aggression, and despite that one-on-two, 38 CS, actually the same in the Warrior Lady camp, but he is strong enough to go on one-on-one the Vayne, so at least for now, his job is still in harm's reach. He is still able to assassinate the Vayne if he's in range.
Something I'm finding very interesting about watching Different Dimension. Anon Psycho seems less comfortable on meta junglers than he does on obscure Rammus and Maokai junglers. And that's... Oh, top lane.
Oh, Warrior Lady has been caught out. Oh, this gets the disruption on his hop and will be taken down. Anon Psycho tried to save the life of his top laner, but to no avail.
Oh, it's bottom lane again.
It's actually mid lane this time around because Charm comes out. Magebane is dropping very low with the Spirit Rush, dodges out the way of the Shockwave, doesn't find his kill, but doesn't die either.
Teleport was used in the bottom lane at the same time, so a little bit of cooldowns being used across the map, not to their highest effect. Mid lane, Jarvan's coming in.
Here's the flag drag, Cataclysm for the dunk, and Take Fun is dropping low, but is completely out of mana. He cannot return for the kill, a 1-0 in the mid lane.
These teams are just kind of butting heads again and again, and this is a very fast and loose game right now. 11 minutes in, 13 kills, and that, I have to feel, may even benefit Different Dimension. If all of these kills are going on Lee Sin, and DD can get to the late game with an AD carry like Dominant on Vayne, and we've seen Dominant stays alive, that is a difficult thing to overcome.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about the first game. Yes, it was so close, but it was not as kill-packed as we usually expect from Different Dimensions. They're a bloodthirsty team. In the first series, in fact, the first round, they had 58 kills in over those first two games. Not in each game, that would have been insane. But still, 58 kills is a huge stat line. This is the return to bloodthirstiness from DD.
I think we're going to get a few more kills on the board in about 30 seconds' time, because Dragon is due up fairly soon. And that is really where we're going to see this composition shine from Different Dimension, if my thoughts are correct.
Oh, Zayu doesn't quite land that
Mid
onto
lane.
Wild Panda, but in the mid lane, Magebane is ticking down. He's flashing up red, but the Ignite is not going to be enough. Swapping back to these junglers, just zoning control currently, getting that area denial down, but it's the vision game, the vision war between these two teams before that Dragon comes into the objective.
And the gank on Magebane, or the 1v1 on Magebane, was perfectly timed, because there's not going to be a team fight here. That's Reason Gaming's Dragon, uncontested.
So Reason Gaming still maintaining their control over these dragons. Their objective control and their vision game in a big picture sense has just straight up been better than DD's. That, however, will be countered by Warrior Lady. Takes the easy option. You take Dragon, we take top turret.
Yeah, that's the standard option that we will see a lot of teams make, but Dominant is still finding farm across the map. Just depends. Can he out-damage Celiva right now? I don't think he actually wants to find out.
That being said, he is fairly close to his Blade of Ruin King. He actually turned one of those daggers into a Berserker's Greaves, has 1,400 gold in his back pocket as well.
Yeah, he's just about there soon, but Magebane...
Oh, Zayu with the kick into the wall. Here comes the Shockwave onto two people. Lands the first kill onto Zayu. And Take Fun does not want to get in range of this turret. Cataclysm as well to finish off the Ahri. And Magebane doesn't even fall. Warrior Lady made sure it was definitely going to go in their favor. 2 for 0 for DD.
Great timing out by Magebane on that Shockwave. Kept them in place and did the damage. But DD, can they get another objective from this? You have to think they want to push mid-bottom lane.
Dominant has been CC'd up by the Howling Gale. Here comes the bubble onto Celiva, but there's no one to follow up. A 1 for 0. He just got caught with his pants down.
He did indeed. Not sure exactly what Dominant had in mind there, but 125 CS. He's now fallen behind on that as well, down in that bottom lane. But mid, perhaps? No, okay, it was a recall. My bad. I looked at my own screen there. I was just checking exactly
mid,
what Warrior
he's regenerating health.
I was checking what
Watch
Warrior
out, guys.
Lady was actually maxing. But yeah, there we go.
You know, something to note about Magebane, apart from his regenerating health, is he just picked up the Athenes and Holy Grail, and also the Sorcerer's Boots.
Dear.
Bottom tower just fell to Celiva as well. Important to note that.
It is important indeed. But I think that's just a sign of how bloodthirsty this game has been. We're not even 15 minutes in to this game, and there has been a lot of action. So let's recap a little bit on what in fact has happened. There has been so much pressure up on that top lane. Ever since that initial lane swap out from Dominant and Wild Panda, they just hammered down Kuban for a long time, but Kuban managed to solidify.
Didn't land the charm in the mid lane. Oh, sombrero onto those creeps. Not a good shockwave from Magebane.
That one wasn't so good.
No. No, it was not. But he only needs to hit a couple in major team fights for it to be all that they need in these team fights, because they have this big wombo combo we've been talking about in the Champion Select for this to be their major factor to win this game.
You know what is not going as well as last game did? And that's this Gnar pick up in the top lane. And Reason let Gnar go through and have basically allowed Different Dimension to just play themselves off the map. Because Warrior Lady's always been swapping around. Warrior Lady really just hasn't been able to get into this game yet. And he's down on CS and 0-3. That's a horrendous position to be in for a Gnar right now, who everybody says is the best top lane right now.
That being said, a lot of people also say he doesn't always just need items to be effective, because his kit is mind-bogglingly insane when it gets to these team fights. That being said, if he dies instantly, then of course that's not going to become a factor. But we now look at the gold totals, already different to first game, because this is already a pretty significant gold advantage opening up. 3,000 gold difference in the lead now currently for Reason Gaming. Not sure if this is going to matter for Take Fun, who almost gets caught out by the Acro Prison. And now, 16 minutes into the game, already in roaming phase.
Yeah, DD are looking to group. This is where their composition has its groundings. Take a look, top and bottom lane. Both have members of Reason in, and Different Dimension are 5 members strong in this middle lane.
Chipping away at this turret. Here's the bubble. This time landing is mark onto Take Fun in the mid lane. Down goes the mid lane, and down goes the mid lane's turret, and they're looking for more.
DD making it look easy. They just say, okay, we'll see you in top and bottom, and we'll take a turret from you. So not a lot to write home about on that one. That's Reason Gaming really not being prepared for this roaming phase.
And 9 to 8 currently, well on the course for 1 kill a minute. But with Dragon up in 1 minute 30, it will be DD just backing off a little bit, maybe even going back for a couple more items. And currently they are sitting in the mid lane, actually expecting maybe a counter push from Reason Gaming.
Yeah, I mean, Reason could counter push here, but DD are quite strong still.
Oh, Anon Psycho gets caught out in the middle of his flag and drag by the Howling Gale. Warrior Lady takes some hits. Celiva gets hit up by the Acro Prison, but Magebane doesn't have his ultimate.
Yeah, that ult still not available from the last thing. Also, Dominant wasn't there, so that's a large part of their damage that they didn't want to engage without. But DD have kind of steadied the ship a little bit here. Kuban is looking, however, for Magebane, who is overstaying in this middle lane. Here goes Kuban.
Kuban comes in from the side, but this would be very aggressive if they went for this one. Reason Gaming make the power play onto the middle lane turret and take that 1-for-1 in exchange between those two middle lane turrets. 1 tower advantage to that Reason Gaming lineup, and that's all they want for now. 30 seconds before Dragon, now is the time where they go back to base, collect their forts, collect their items, and get ready for the next fight.
And speaking of items, Warrior Lady has opted for a very different build path to Kuban's build path in the last game. So Kuban we saw pick up a Hex Drinker and a Frozen Mallet. Obviously, Hex Drinker for the magic resist. But in this case, they're using Warrior Lady in a slightly different role. They don't actually want the damage from Na at all during this roaming phase. They're just looking for a tanky crowd control, but Dominant is about to get crowd control.
Oh, getting caught out in the bottom lane. Kuban lands the Equilibrium Strike, and there goes Dominant. Gets popped instantly by these two assassins, and now Reason Gaming will convert this into yet another dragon.
Yeah, Reason Gaming just having the perfect timing on these picks, and Different Dimension just are not in position for these dragons spawning, and that is pretty unforgivable here as we're in round 2 of the LCS expansion tournament. So Dragon goes down. Can Warrior Lady do anything in the top lane? He's going to recall out.
This is slipping through the fingers now of Different Dimensions. This is not the game that they wanted. This is not the game that they wanted to use to kickstart their comeback in this series. And Reason Gaming from their side, we spoke about consistency. We spoke about they need this consistent performance that they did not have in the first series. But this is looking a lot better for them. Warrior Lady has teleported in from behind, and Take Fun says, okay, I guess I'll just flash away. But now I don't have an escape for Anon Psycho, and this is a full collapse now for DD. Take down the Ahri.
That's a lot used, though. Cataclysm was used teleport as well, so we'll see what DD can do with this, because they're going to need to get some objectives from it. They've got 22 seconds to make up their mind here, but DD still very much so behind.
Well, with the Dragon down, pretty difficult to find an objective currently. They maybe could have gone bottom turret, but the minion wave is currently being frozen by Dominant, so they don't really have anywhere to go. Warrior Lady jumps over the wall, walks straight into the middle of Zayu and Libic, and not to mention there's Irelia in the top lane getting ready for this fight, but that's a Mega Gnar who's just been transformed. Kuban will be pinning him down, gets the Equilibrium Strike. Gnar ultimate slams them away, but Kuban uses the minions to get in range. Wallet comes out. This is still enough for Warrior Lady, commits the flash, and he's still coming away from this one. Oh, Wild Panda from the side uses the ultimate for the disengage, and here's the flying drag from Anon Psycho. Do they have anyone behind him? Well, Kuban's dropping low. Dissonance as well, and now Mage Bane's come in from the base. Flash comes forward from Anon Psycho as well. Zephyr will slow him down. Everyone is so damn low, but Anon Psycho will finish him off with his Dragon Strike, and from a terrible situation, there's a 1-0. Bot lane, Selva takes down Dominant in a 1-on-1.
All the way at the beginning of that fight, Warrior Lady led Reason through a goose chase through that jungle, and the reason is because of how tanky he is.
Oh, and he's found Mage Bane in that jungle, uses the Deathfire Grasp, but again, he will not die. People are escaping on nothing, and he runs away.
Different Dimension right now have a very clear goal, and that is stack as much health as they can in this game. Take a look at the number of Giant Spells currently on the team. There's 1 already in that Randuin's, and 3 others.
Flag, drag, and the Cataclysm. Looks for the Acro Prison, doesn't land it, but it doesn't matter. Picks up another kill, but now Kuban has teleported into the fight, looking for cleanup. But Mage Bane is now getting focused down by Zayu, lands the ultimate, lands the Q as well, doesn't knock him away from his kill, but the shutdown comes out for Kuban in the top lane, a 2-for-1 overall.
And this is, I just fractured teamfight into teamfight or skirmish again and again, and DD didn't have the time to heal up, and with them building towards so much health, what that tells you is Dominant is their obvious focus for this game. The later this goes, the tankier that DD can become. They can be the front line for this Vayne. Currently at 3-3-0 is Dominant right now. But if you've got a Gnar and a Jarvan in front of you that are just standing there as a giant wall, what do Reason do to that? How do Reason combat that? And again, I feel like it has to be on Zayu.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of funny thing that we've gotten into the roaming phase, but we haven't seen a 5-on-5 fight. What we have seen is small skirmishes and people getting caught and people getting blown up. But when we get into a 5-on-5 fight, then we see whether different dimensions can lay out all of these different components of their composition together and get the right mix.
We spoke at the very beginning of this series about Take Fun's inconsistency, and we showed you his Ahri stat lines. take a look. 3, 6, and 3 right now. That is not what Reason need. Yes, they're ahead. Yes, they still have the lead in this game with their single target focus, but this game gets more difficult to win the longer it goes on. They've got better wave clear this time. Ari is a far better choice than Fizz, but Reason kind of have a timer here on their composition.
Yeah, and it's not as dire as game 1 of the first series they played, in which he was 1-10-1. A far cry from that. But we also said it's linked to how well his team does. And if Takefun's not doing well, then it's up for someone else to try and do the carrying. Zayo's in a pretty good place for that. He is 6-2-0. This is risky. Talking about Zayo and Saliva, they're on Baron. But this is completely unseen by different dimensions. And they're probably going to get away with this.
They are going to get away with this unless somebody decides to check. DD aren't even going to go anywhere in, and this is an oversight by DD. At this point in the game at Worlds, every team had 4 sweepers and a blue trinket, because the blue trinket allows you to check situations like that without having to go anywhere near it. There's no blue trinket for Dominant.
Yep. Imagine if that blue trinket had been there. They would have seen it, and then they may not have even been in position to go for it anyway, but again, this has come down to their vision control. Even when they're ahead, they didn't have vision control, and when they're behind, they're even further behind vision control. Look at it right now. There's pink wards all over the map right now for Reason Gaming, and they still have wards in the opposing jungle.
I would like to see Reason placing more wards as well. A lot of them just timed out, I am aware of that, but they have a double Sightstone composition here. So they need to smother DD as much as possible now and just work their way through the jungle and try and find a turret that they can actually get in front of, because that's kind of the problem they're going to have, is until they get Ari, Jan, or Lucian in front of a turret and lay down damage, they're kind of forced back to picking somebody, and I don't know whether DD are going to give them that opportunity too many times.
That's true. Maybe they'll just have a repeat of their issues, as there is the longest ward fight in which DD come out on top. Zayu, will you place down a ward? Nope. So that has thoroughly been won out by DD, but doesn't matter, they didn't care about wards because another dragon goes the way of Reason Gaming. Is accelerating the goal total, now 6,000 gold ahead, is a significant advantage, but is definitely not out of control yet.
Bottom lane is the focus for Reason Gaming, though. And, take a look at how far Dominant is away from bottom lane right now. That's a fair trek down, but luckily no minion wave available here for Reason is going to slow them up a little bit.
And Reason Gaming, are they strong enough to just siege this one away? In the turret, they do not have a whole lot of wave clear, at least they can't get in range to clear it all the way. Did manage to get a little bit of chipping away at the turret, but more on the champions of DD. And the call has been made, let's back up. We can just allow them to take this one. But that was 4 versus 5. Kuban's in the top lane doing his own thing.
And I think that's part of why the call was made. They have to go and send somebody to go up against Kuban, as Kuban wants to split push. And there's not really a lot of people on the side of DD that can do that. I guess the person they would want to go to do that would be Warrior Lady, but he hasn't done that great outside of that initial lane swap. It really put the pressure on him.
Oh, Saliva gets caught out a little bit by Warrior Lady, who's looking for this fight. And as Zayu notices the rage bar, he instantly kicks him away.
Yeah, and this is the problem that players, when picking Nah, have, is you just play around the rage bar. Warrior Lady just made it a little too obvious that he was actually looking to engage there, and as soon as you turn into Mega Nah, the disengage comes out. Janna is there for the disengage, so it makes it very easy for Reason Gaming until the full engage comes from Jarvan, from Orianna. Only then really can Warrior Lady follow that up.
And for that to be a reality, they need all those ultimates up. And Anon Psycho just used his ultimate on Kuban alone and then collapsed it instantly. So that's a big cooldown for the vital part of this big combo they want to pull off.
It is. That's one of the biggest parts, because Nah's ultimate is used as secondary.
Middle turret goes down, and so does Mage Bane. Anon Psycho getting ripped apart by that damage from Reason Gaming. Warrior Lady again has to jump away, even while in his mega form. And Reason Gaming, they're pushing down the middle inhibitor turret. And can they break the shell?
It wouldn't be too surprising.
Oh, Warrior Lady lands the ultimate onto 2 people, but he will be dropping very, very quickly. Middle lane's down. This is a 3 versus 5. They'll be easily able to take away this inhibitor turret and the inhibitor itself.
They haven't got Dominant into this game at all, and Warrior Lady has not been having the strong game that we have all heard about. And everybody talked about Warrior Lady is such a good top laner right now. This game has not been his.
No, and this game has been blown wide open by Reason Gaming, and they took a small advantage and snowballed that into a massive advantage. 12,000 gold currently, and if they pick up more people, this could be the end of it. Kubon will be able to take down Wild Panda. Yes, Mage Bane is back into the fight, but Dominant's kicked into his team. Perfect play by Zayu, but he's somehow still alive. Mage Bane is keeping him in there, but Kubon assassinates him. Take Fun will be able to take him out as well, but Mage Bane lands a perfect shockwave onto 2. Picks up the first kill onto Celiva, looking to chase down Libic, but they have weathered the storm. Can they take more off this? That's the next question. Using distance to get in range. In fact, doesn't have that on cooldown, but what Take Fun does have is its own ultimate off cooldown. Has to use all the charges. Now he's out of mana, and Warrior Lady, with the help of Anon Psycho chiming in, picks up the kill to Take Fun.
A very back and forth team fight. Reason looked like they may have been able to push into the base to do critical damage there. They take 2 inhibitors from that, and again, Zayu makes his presence felt on Lee Sin. Dominant, we questioned it. Can they keep him alive during fights? If he positions like that and Zayu gets his hands on him, or in this case, Lee Sin's foot, he is going straight into the enemy team, and that is going to be an easy pickoff, but they overstayed. And that was the dangerous bit. They decided to try and dive 2 Nexus turrets to get that kill on Dominant. And DD punished them for it, but it is not enough at this point in the game. DD have to put a giant pause timer now. They need a good 10 to 15 minutes to recuperate this massive gold difference.
Reason Gaming just said, we're going to make a power play and we'll just see how it works out. And it, in fact, worked out very well. Now an 11,000 gold difference between these teams, up from 6,000 gold before all that action just happened. Not a bad play if you ask me. Reason Gaming come into this one so strong. 1 minute left on the Baron, and they have control over this map.
One thing Reason have been preparing very much so for, and you take a look down their itemization, is for the fact that DD only have 2 damage threats. Vayne is the biggest, then Orianna. Nara's building tanky, so he's only going to rely on that percentage damage that'll come from his auto attacks in mini-Nar form. At that point, they've stacked enough armor to just survive through a lot of what Dominant is putting out right now, and Dominant needs the Eye Edge and the Last Whisper at this point really to start competing, because he needs the armor penetration very quickly.
And now Reason Gaming, despite that big power play, are now kind of just circling around and are looking a little bit lost. Or they're just gearing up for the Baron, which is the more likely alternative.
I was going to say, my eyes drew top left of the screen, and it is in fact the Baron that they're waiting for.
And that is now live. There was a little break there, and I got confused. Baron was just on a 5-minute break. But now Celiva, Zayu, and Libic, that tag team, trying to take away this Baron. Already been started off. Warrior Lady and the full lineup.
Oh, he got him.
DD come in, but they managed to take down the straggler of Dominant. This has not started off well. Warrior comes in with his ultimate, lands onto 2, but I don't feel like it's going to be enough here. Wild Panda comes in. He will get taken down. Warrior Lady gets destroyed by Take Fun. A 3-0. Baron has not been taken, but it doesn't really matter at this stage, Stress, because a 4-0 quickly turned into a 5-0. The ace, Take Fun barrels down the middle lane, the teleport comes out, and this is looking like curtains for DD.
Clean ace for Reason Gaming, shuts down the hopes of Different Dimension, and it's all due to Dominant getting picked off. When you've only got 2 damage threats and one of them dies before the fight, it's impossible to overcome.
Reason Gaming have dealt with their problems of inconsistency, and the inhibitor spawns, and they look very confused. They have to go back and destroy the inhibitor before going forward, but that's only a small pestilence before they move on to the second round. That being said, Dominant is back from base, but the inhibitor, and rather the Nexus itself, is exposed, and they just need to take down the last remaining 5,000 health. Reason Gaming take away the second game of this best of 3 in the second round here, up against Different Dimensions. What a series.
It was a pretty good 2-game series, I must admit. DD very much so looked strong in game number 1, but let's take a look at the end of that second game there. Before the inhibitor respawn, because, you know, it just had to make sure Reason got another thing before they got through the game. But when you're only running 2 damage threats, and one of them is a late game hyper carry, you can't really afford to go through the jungle and then be against an Ahri that charms you over the wall. Again, it's warding from DD, but at the same time, you don't take Fun knew what was coming. He knew exactly what to do in that situation.
Yeah, and Reason Gaming, pretty solid game following that first series, or rather that first game, and they have solved those problems from the first series. Yes, it still takes them a while to get up to pace and feel out their opponent, but they did it a damn sight faster than it did in the first series. And they solved those issues, took away the first game, took away the second, makes it the